welcome to another Yellow Chair devotional. Today we are going to look at our very last character in the book of Genesis. Can you believe it? We are already through Genesis. We have been tracing the whole family from Adam and Eve to Abraham to Isaac, Jacob, and now we're down to Jacob's son, but I wonder which one it could be. We've mentioned him in passing the last couple days. Let's look at our character card and see what we can find out. What do we observe here? I see a pretty colorful coat. I wore my colorful coat in honor of this character today. I see some cows. What about here? Those look like pyramids. Grain, maybe some grain. He's holding a cup. We've got the moon and the stars and the sun. And our key phrase says, "Listen to this dream I had." Who could this be, ladies and gentlemen? Oh my gosh, you're right. It is Joseph. It is Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob and Rachel, and Jacob loved him the most of all of his 12 sons. Joseph's brothers were jealous and sold him into slavery. God blessed Joseph, and he became a very important leader in Egypt. The favorite son. Doesn't that sound familiar? Wasn't Esau Isaac's favorite? And Jacob was Rebekah's favorite? And then he ended up lying and tricking and running away for his life. Don't you think Jacob would have learned that having a favorite isn't the best thing? And then what happens with Rachel and Leah? He has a favorite wife. And finally she has Joseph. So Joseph becomes his favorite son. And this just spells a recipe for disaster. So let's see here. Did you know that Joseph's story takes up the most pages in the book of Genesis? His story goes all the way from Genesis 37 to Genesis 50. The Bible gives a ton of time and space to the story of Joseph because his story is so big and so important and so special. And we do not have the time to go over the entire thing, but we're going to do a brief glimpse over, and then I encourage you to spend time reading these chapters for yourself and diving into Joseph's whole story because it's such a wonderful story. It's one of my favorites. So grab your Bibles if you don't have them already, and we're going to be in Genesis 37. Genesis 37, all right? So chapter is our large number, chapter 37. And we are introduced to Joseph. And it talks about how Joseph is the favorite and how his dad, Jacob, gives him a colorful special coat. And that coat is only for Joseph, and none of the other brothers get a coat. And how would you feel if one of your siblings or one of your friends got something so special and you didn't get anything? Oh my goodness, I wouldn't like that very much. And so his other brothers are already starting to be jealous. And then Joseph has these amazing special dreams. And he would come and tell everyone his dreams. But in the dreams, oh, my brothers would bow down to me. And the sun, moon, and stars bowed down to me. That didn't make them any happier. What do you mean I bowed down to you? What makes you so special in your fancy little coat? So chapter 37 results with Joseph being a tattletale on his older brothers. I don't think you've ever been a tattletale, have you? Joseph could be a tattletale at times on how his brothers were, they weren't watching the sheep very well, Father. They were falling asleep. They were just being lazy. Joseph's brothers had enough. Enough is enough. They're like, we're going to kill him. And then finally they were like, well, maybe we shouldn't kill him. We'll just sell him. So they grab Joseph and they steal his coat and they throw him in a well. And then when they're trying to figure out what to do with him, a trader caravan comes by on its way to Egypt and they sell him to the Egyptians to be a slave. And they bloody up his coat and take the coat back to Jacob and say, wild animals must have gotten him. This was all we found. And Jacob cries and mourns, for he thinks his favorite son is dead. Chapter 38 shares a story about Joseph's brother during that time. And then if we fast forward to chapter 39, we're back to Joseph in Egypt. And a guy named Potiphar buys Joseph, and Joseph becomes a slave for Potiphar. But Joseph decides that he is going to be the absolute best slave that he can be. He is going to serve Potiphar loyally. He's going to be a hard worker. He is going to be pleasing to God and man, and he's going to be faithful. And Potiphar is impressed with Joseph. And so Joseph raises in the ranks, and he's given more responsibilities. And Potiphar's wife takes notice, and she kind of thinks Joseph's pretty great, but Joseph won't give her the time of day because he is focused on being a good servant and doing his duties. So pretty soon Potiphar's wife gets mad, and she makes a lie up about Joseph that lands Joseph in prison. Oh my goodness, now he's in prison for something he didn't do. Do you think Joseph gives up? No, he decides, I'm just going to be the best prisoner that a prisoner can be. So he works hard in prison. He tries to get along with everyone. And pretty soon people in the prison are impressed with Joseph. And so they start giving Joseph jobs in the jail. And he is a faithful servant even when in jail. So in chapter 40, there's these other guys who wind up in jail, and they have these dreams, and they are sharing their dreams, and Joseph, because he's given this gift by God, is able to interpret those dreams. And the men are like, oh my goodness, this is a gift. And so later on in chapter 41, Pharaoh has a dream. And one of those guys who had been in jail with Joseph, Pharaoh can't figure out what his dream means. And the guy remembers Joseph and says, Pharaoh, I knew this guy in jail, and he was able to tell me what my dream meant, and it came true. So Pharaoh goes, bring him to me. And Joseph is brought to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh tells him about this dream, and there's skinny cows and fat cows and skinny wheat and fat wheat. And what does it all mean? And God helps Joseph interpret Pharaoh's dream about how there's going to be 7 years of wonderful crops and plenty and a wonderful harvest. But then there's going to be 7 years of nothing, 7 years of famine. So Joseph is like, Pharaoh, we need to use these years of plenty, and we've got to be prepared, and we've got to store up food so that we can take care of our people. And Pharaoh goes, Joseph, you have impressed me. The job is yours. And Pharaoh makes Joseph a ruler over Egypt. And Joseph sets to work storing up grain and working to help save Egypt. Well, in chapter 42, the famine starts coming, and that famine even hits Joseph's family way back in Canaan. And they aren't getting crops, and their families aren't having much food, and there's nothing for their animals to eat. But they hear that Egypt has food. So the brothers say to Jacob, we're going to go to Egypt and buy food. Well, imagine how surprised Joseph was to see all of his brothers. How do you think he felt about seeing his brothers who had sold him into slavery after all this time? But he was kind of disguised, right? He's speaking Egyptian, he's dressed like an Egyptian, and the brothers didn't recognize him. So Joseph decides to put them to a test. He puts one of them in jail. He hides money in their grain sacks. He hides a goblet in their grain sacks. He does all these tests trying to see if his brothers' hearts have changed. Have they changed? Can I reveal who I am to them without it being another hurt? And so there's this whole series through chapter 44 of him setting his trap. And then finally in chapter 45, Joseph realizes that the brothers are loving to each other. They are willing to sacrifice for each other, characteristics that he never saw when he lived with them. And so he realizes that they have changed. And so he reveals who he is and says, I am Joseph, your brother. And his brothers are shocked, and they are crying and asking for forgiveness, and just, oh my goodness. And Joseph can't wait. He goes, is my father alive? I want to see my father. So Joseph's father, Jacob, and all of the family in chapter 46 and 47, they come and move to Egypt because the famine was so bad. So Joseph says, move to Egypt. We'll set up the land of Goshen for you guys, and you guys can have your flocks and you can farm. And so they arrive, and he's able to have a reunion with his dad and his younger brother, and it's just one big happy family reunion. Well, then Jacob, he's old and he passes away. He dies. And if you turn with me to chapter 50, Genesis chapter 50, the last chapter in Genesis, we're going to start in verse 15. So little number 15. And it says, after Jacob died, Joseph's brother said, what if Joseph is still angry with us? What if we did many wrong things to him? What if he plans to pay us back? So they sent a message to Joseph, and it said, your father gave this command before he died, and he said to us, you have done wrong. You have sinned and done evil to Joseph. Tell Joseph to forgive you, his brothers. So now, Joseph, we beg you to forgive our wrong. We are the servants of the God of your father. And when Joseph received the message, he cried. You see, all of his brothers thought that Joseph was just putting on a good show and being nice to them because Jacob was still alive. And when their dad died, they thought, oh, Joseph's going to get revenge now. He's going to throw us in prison. He's going to make us our slaves for what we did to him. He's going to get even with us. He's going to get revenge. And they couldn't believe that they were forgiven, that Joseph had forgiven them way back when he revealed himself to them. And that's what made Joseph cry. He goes, they don't know that my forgiveness is genuine. And so in verse 18 it says, and his brothers went to him and they bowed low before him and they said, we are your slaves. Then Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Can I do what only God can do? You meant to hurt me, but God turned your evil into good. It was to save the lives of many people, and it is being done. So don't be afraid. I will take care of you and your children. So Joseph comforted his brothers and spoke kind words to them. Joseph continued to live in Egypt with all of his father's family, and he died when he was 110 years old. And during Joseph's life, his sons Ephraim and Manasseh had children. Oh my goodness. Is it hard sometimes to believe that we are forgiven? Have you asked someone for forgiveness and then maybe thought they were just doing it to be nice? Or what about when we ask God for forgiveness? Do we believe that he truly forgives us and that he not only forgives, but he forgets? And he says, why are you asking me for forgiveness again? And he starts crying like Joseph did, says, don't you know that I love you, that I trust this process? I am here to save. Joseph says to his brothers, hey, what you meant for evil, God turned into good to save so many people. Joseph was able to save so many people in Egypt from that famine, all because he went through these hard things. And what we might think is a hard time or something evil, God goes, oh, I can turn that into good. I'm going to set you free with my forgiveness. I am going to save you. Just believe it. Believe that I have good plans. I intend things for good. Joseph's story is full of so many lessons, but one of the biggest lessons is that we can always trust God. Joseph trusted God even when things were not going well for him. Can you think of a time when you trusted God even though things were really hard? Maybe you said, God, things feel so hard right now, but I know you mean it for good. Maybe you can think of a time when it was really hard, but you trusted God anyways. And did he give you that peace and that assurance and that love for you to know it was going to be all right? All right, let's say a prayer and then we're going to do an activity together. Dear God, we are so thankful for the story of Joseph, and we are so thankful that you always forgive us. You forgive and you forget, and you say, whatever has been meant for evil, I mean for good, to save. I am here to save because I love you that much. May we keep trusting you through the good times and the bad, knowing that you are there to love and save us. We thank you for your love. Amen. All right, Joseph's story is full of dreams. While in prison, Joseph helped Pharaoh with some strange dreams. I wonder, could you draw or act out a dream that you had recently? Do you remember any of your dreams? You know, the other day, my husband came home from work and he was so tired and he was laying on the couch and he fell asleep on the couch. And I was kind of reading there and he's asleep on the couch and all of a sudden he kicks and he goes, "Get out!" And later he wakes up and I was like, "What were you dreaming about?" And he goes, "I don't know, I don't remember. But something, because his leg went up in the air and he was kicking." Maybe you've had some strange dreams and you don't even remember them when you wake up in the morning, but maybe there are some dreams you remember. So I would love for you to either, maybe you could draw out a picture or create a skit, and maybe with your siblings or your friends, you act out one of these dreams and you try and recreate it. Or if you can't remember any of your dreams, maybe you draw one of the dreams from Joseph's story. It could be a dream that Joseph had, a dream that the guys in prison had, a dream that Pharaoh had. You could draw it, you could act it out. But that is our activity and challenge for this Yellow Chair devotional. That brings us to the end of Genesis. I wonder what is in store for us next. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow.